Alrighty, friends. So this week in social studies, we're going to be focusing on the Northeast region still, but we're going to be talking about population density. And population density is the measure of the average number of people who live within a given piece of land. Population density is really important for how people live. When people can live more spread out, lots of land and little people, they live differently than people who have a little bit of land and lots of people jammed in. And when we think of New York City, we think of people living up, right, in apartments like skyscraper buildings. That's because a city like New York City is very population dense. So if you look at the map in your textbook on page 82, it's the same picture that's right here. The bright areas represent the lights that shine from houses and businesses in populated areas. The dark areas are places where there are few lights. So if we look at our country, if this is the eastern side of the country and this is the western side of the country, where do more people live? Well, certainly more people live on the eastern side of the country, as we can see here. It's much more population dense in the east. It's more settled. People have been living here for longer in the East, right? People to first immigrate from Europe usually came to the East Coast. There are several other reasons why the East is more populated. Like I just said, the Europeans who first came to the United States settled in the East. They traveled across the Atlantic Ocean via ship. So they've been here longer to have settled the area. And mountains and deserts cover large areas of the West right here. So lots of this is mountains, which makes it hard for humans to live there. So we have the Rocky Mountains out here and some other mountain ranges, and it makes it hard for people to live there. And it's also deserts down here. So not as many people want to live there either because they don't get as much rain. So there are reasons why the eastern half of the country is much more populated. If we look at these maps below, we have a population map, population density map. We know it's much more populated on the eastern side than the west. We can see here how the western side is filled with all these mountains, which makes it hard to live there, which is why you don't see as many people living there. Whereas the eastern side, they do have some mountains as well, but they also have the coast right here. And lots of people settled along the coast because they could easily get goods and ship things out from the coast and bring things in. So we can see the areas with the brightest lights probably right there. We've got New York and Boston, big cities. And again, here is showing the population. So the big red is over 15 million people living there, and it goes down 3 million to 15 million, and then the white is only 20 to 50,000. So we can see New York City is the biggest city. It's actually the biggest city in the country. We've got Boston, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., all very population dense cities there. More than 8 million people live in New York City, and it's not a very big place, so they have to live up. They have to live up in the sky in skyscrapers. So this region here, the Northeast region that is heavily populated, is the first place to be called a megalopolis. Megalopolis. I have a hard time with that word, which just means that it is a large collection of really big cities. It's a region of connected cities, and you will be closely looking at the Northeast, the population of the Northeast. You're going to be reading about it in your TCI textbook, and you're going to be taking some notes. Now, not every place in the Northeast is big cities. They also have some small towns. You're going to be kind of comparing and contrasting life in the big city in the Northeast versus life in a small town in the Northeast. And you're going to see that the bigger the city, it really changes how people live. And you can kind of think about our small town of Indianola and how that might be different than living in a big, big city like New York City.